Welcome back. So I've been publishing a series called The Physics of Performance on Endurance Essentials, and we've been touching on block periodization. And the first block I've been going deep on is VO2 block, focusing on absolute VO2 max, building our engines, building our ability to generate power and pace at the top end. So 3 to 6 minute maximal effort type stuff. Now, what I wanted to do, the articles go pretty deep, but what I wanted to do was kind of pull back a bit and just ask a really simple question, which is, do I need a VO2 block? And it's something everybody wonders about. Like, do I need to be doing a whole bunch of hard training, or do I need this block of hard training? Now, I think most of us have a bias towards thinking that harder is better and that we need to be doing something hard most weeks. And I think this misleads us. I think it's better to be thinking, well, we want to be doing something quick or something fast most weeks. And that's different. That's neuromuscular. We want to be challenging ourselves neuromuscularly. And there's a lot of different ways we can do that. Now, that is very different than doing something that's very hard and very stressful due to intensity as well as the duration of intensity. So I built a little graphic here that I want to just share with you. So it might help you kind of think through these things. And what we have on the y-axis here is breakpoints and durability. What do I mean by that? Well, durability is our ability to hold an effort over time. And breakpoints is where our first threshold and our second threshold lies relative to our maximal effort. In other words, do we have a lot of capacity above this first threshold? And you can use, I like using lactate testing for this because it's really easy to see if there's a big gap. And if there's a big gap, it means that we might have this big engine, but we can't really access it. And this was where I found myself when I came back 3 years ago. My engine was much bigger than my ability to access it. Now, how did I know that? Well, I knew that because at what felt like a pretty easy effort, I would just fall apart over time. So I would decouple. So my heart rate would rise if I was trying to hold a moderate power or pace, and it would break away. I wasn't able to lock in steady state. So decoupling is a sign of that. And you'll feel it. The other thing is you'll feel fatigue. These moderate efforts, particularly if there's a little variability in them, you're outside, there's little hills and rollers and stuff, are going to leave you really tired. And if that's the case, then you're a low breakpoint athlete. And that's not a big deal. That's actually good news to figure that out, because what it means is you need consistent, easy training. And that's where you need to be focusing. And taking a lot of energy and focusing that energy on highly intense training is wasted energy for what your needs are right now, because that's not going to move your breakpoints up. So that's the first, and it's not going to improve your durability. So breakpoints and durability. Now, in the bottom there it says engine. So size of your VO2. And a good way to do that is, all these typical VO2 tests or VDOT. I got a video on VDOT for you. But basically, it's just how much power and pace can you generate in zone 5? That's what we're talking about. And if you have a big engine but low breakpoints, so you're in this bottom right quadrant there. So a big engine, low breakpoints, where I found myself when I came back. Green zone endurance is where you need to be focusing. And if you have low breakpoints and a smaller engine, then you want to be a little bit more balanced, because you'll need to be doing things that build the engine over time. So endurance and strength, a more balanced traditional seasonal program where you're going to go through all the different types of training across your year. But if you happen to be a big engine athlete, particularly somebody that finds yourself lying on the couch after what you think was just a moderate 90-minute session, you're generating all this fatigue, you got to back off and just focus on that zone 1. Do not do a bunch of hard training. It's counterproductive. You're making yourself tired for not a lot of gains. However, over time, your breakpoints are going to rise if you train properly, and you will find yourself as a big engine, high breakpoint athlete. You're going to be in this upper right quadrant here, and that's when it's going to be appropriate to do some raise the roof type training. 4x4, meaning 4 intervals of 4 minutes duration, zone 5, as well as things like 800s, zone 5, red zone type training, blocks of it. I got an article that's going to be coming talking about the different ways and the different types of this VO2 training, because we've written a lot on it. I'm going to pull it into one location for you. Now, here's the thing. The coaches that you're going to run into, the pro athletes, the top amateurs, the competitive athletes, they're going to tend towards this upper right-hand quadrant. They're going to be very well trained. They will have been training for many years, and they're going to be doing this raise the roof training, which is appropriate for many of them. Now, most of us are not in that quadrant, but we're going to be heavily influenced by that quadrant. So you need to pay attention to your response to your hard training. Done right, your challenging training should lift everything. And by everything, I literally mean everything. So it should lift your mood. It should lift your first threshold performance, power and pace, your second threshold, power and pace, and your top end. So it should benefit everything. And you don't need to be doing a ton of it to get the benefit, because a little bit goes a long way. Now, if you're doing too much, what's going to happen is it's not going to lift. You're going to feel stale. You're going to get beaten down, and your hard training is going to be not adaptive. You won't be responding to it. Now, sometimes it's the case you got the protocol wrong, but other times there might not be a reason. I've run into situations where my training just didn't seem to be working, and I had to back off and get back to base training and just kind of try again in some other block. So it's your adaptation that you need to be watching with that. Final thing, in this top left quadrant, so a relatively smaller engine athlete, very well trained, so high break points. Typically what you'll run into here, this might be a well-trained recreational runner. Relatively got that kind of runner's build, relatively slight, so not a big engine. That type of athlete can benefit from focusing on absolute VO2, so not relative, absolute. And what I'm thinking about here would be doing a block where it's like, hey, can I improve my absolute bike power, my 5-minute bike power, my 3-minute bike power, that type of thing. Because when you're just focusing on running performance, sometimes that's more a relative marker. So that's fitness per kilo. The bike, though, when you're looking at watts and power, can be very helpful to complement your overall training. So just some thoughts there. We get way into the detail with the series, but I wanted to give you a simple way to think about it. So let's just sum up. Do I need a VO2 block? If your breakpoints are low, probably not. You don't need to be doing a bunch of hard training. Focus on green zone training to move those breakpoints up. Focus on a little bit of quickness and a little bit of speed, but don't be doing a lot of hard training. You're making yourself tired for an aspect of your fitness portfolio that you don't currently need. However, high breakpoint athlete, yes, you probably need it. Depending, and where you're going to focus will depend on the size of your engine. Big engine athlete, raise the roof type training. Smaller engine athlete, think about absolute power generation in your approach. So I hope this helps. Lots more in the series, but I just want to put this one out there for you. Thanks for listening. See you next time.